Tell me about the work, first of all, of the Mercy Ships.
Mercy Ship is a wonderful ship because it's an organisation, a global charity, and it's a surgical NGO, non-governmental organisation, who run civilian ships and basically sail to West Africa and to deliver urgent, life-saving, life-transforming surgery. But at the same time, they also send teams into the land and run clinics, and also to train and mentor local healthcare workers so that they can look after patients in a better way and basically leaving a legacy after the ship has left.
And what is life like for the typical patient that you're encountering under these circumstances? What world are they coming from?
I think to start to answering that question is we need to know where they were before they come to the ship. And even before COVID-19, we are in a surgical crisis, and that is one of the understand 2/3 of the world population do not have access to timely, affordable, safe surgery.
2/3.
2/3. And can you imagine, in this country, we've got amazing NHS. During COVID-19, a lot of surgery had to stop because, to cope with COVID-19. And the waiting list started to grow up. But that actually compounded the problem. To come back to your question, a patient who, say, have a simple jaw cyst or tumour, in this country, say if that happened to one of my loved ones, they would end up in a dental practice, and the dental surgeon will do an x-ray and say, oh, this is bigger than what I can deal with. Send to people like Leo, an oral maxillofacial surgeon, and then we took some x-ray and say, okay, this is a benign tumour. We take it out, day surgery, sometimes even the local anesthetic.
So relatively straightforward.
Very straightforward. Now, out there, a simple benign tumour got the time to grow, and eventually so big that some of these patients actually died. Now, this is a benign tumour, this is not cancer. The sad thing is, it takes the patient quite a long time to die. But during that period, because out there, there's less education, a lot of superstition, and people are being ostracized, they said, you've got a devil in your face. And I have heard stories that patients actually being buried alive, cleft-lip palate baby, buried alive, can you imagine? Because they treat that baby is not a human baby, it's a devil's baby. And I have patients who come to me and say, I've got this growth for several years. I've been to all the voodoo doctors in the neighbouring villages, and they keep on growing. I had the goiter patients, when he came to see me, the whole neck was full of lumps. And I thought, what sort of skin condition like that? I've never seen anything like that. Voodoo doctors' handiwork. The voodoo doctors say, you got evil spirit in your neck. I'm not going to use a big poker to let it out, because we could probably kill the patient. Come to me, I'll scratch it 2 or 3 times, no anesthetic, no asepsis, and let the evil spirit out slowly, and rub some black tar into it. And of course, every single cut become keloid scars. And this patient came full of keloid scars on the neck. Just unbelievable.
It must be overwhelming. I can only imagine that you're part of a team. I appreciate that, but you're a relatively few people, and despite that lovely quote at the start that you have to do what you can do, the extent to which you must feel overwhelmed by the scale of the problem. No wonder I know how much of your time you spend, and I can only imagine how you would feel the necessity to keep going and keep going. One more.
Neil, you're absolutely right. Sometimes I see the sea of need out there, and I can only help certain people in the time that I can do. And Dr. Gary Parker is a saintly, amazing person, and he has been on the ship for over 33 years without salary or pension. And I share a lot of my anxiety, doubts, or worries with him. And you know what he said to me? I still remember every time when I said, well, how can I help all these people? He said to me, you cannot change the world, but you can change the world of this patient. And then you just go one after another. And like the quote that you mentioned earlier on, I cannot do everything, but I can do something. So that raised my energy again, my enthusiasm. And every year, I want to go back to the mercy ship. Why? Because whenever I come back to this country, I feel, gosh, we are so blessed. We've got everything. You know, water, you can turn on the tap, you can drink, and the hospital is all season hospital, just like this studio. And yet, I see living hell out there. Mm-hmm. And I want to be out there to make a difference, to change one life at a time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The perspective that you bring, because we here in the blessed West, as you say, we're invited to overlook and to not see what's really happening to by far the majority of the living population, and what you're describing puts into its rightful place a lot of the day-to-day worries that we have. Hearing about the kinds of circumstances for those people whom you're trying to help.
Yes, I have many examples, and for instance, one simple example, like we talk about these big jaw tumours. After surgery, maybe 5 hours, 6 hours, but for the patient, it's like a nap, because they wake up and a bit, sedated. But when they regain full consciousness, we always
we're looking at those pictures on the screen now.
That's right.
The idea. I mean, if life wasn't hard enough in some of these places, to go through it disfigured and disabled in that way, it just beggars belief. What would be happening there with that child there?
Yeah, and the amazing thing on the ship, we have everything we need to change that for that person, one at a time. And as I mentioned about earlier on, that all patients come to the ship, they have nothing. Mm-hmm. So we got a wash bag, and in this wash bag, we always have a mirror. And the reason for that is they look at the mirror, they want to feel this, and their hand usually stop at where the lump used to be. And of course, then me and the nurse will say, hey, your face is no longer there. Then we move the hands over to the face, and time and again, the eyes pop out in front of the mirror. And
that must be a sensation for you that never gets old.
And that made me, I'm addicted to it. I want to go back again and again to see that reaction. And a lot of patients then would not believe it, and they have to keep looking at it 3, 4, 5 times a day for the coming few days to make sure they're not dreaming. And what really pleased me is there's a new lease of life in them now. They were so ostracized, they were called names. Now they know they are taking a seat in the normal human race. They've been kicked away. Now they can take a rightful place.
Now, we have a case study. I think it's Kamara.
Yeah.
Who had a benign jaw tumour growing for 3 years from the age of 3, and a slow growing tumour isolated from her friends and villagers. Can you talk us through what you were able to do for Kamara?
Now, this is just another example. Can you see she came to the ship covered up as like a thief, because she said to us, if I don't cover up, no children will want to play with me. And some children will bully her, call her names, and kick her out. And you can see I've examined the patient, and we know she needs surgery. Interestingly, the mum was actually very sad bringing her in, because the mum has lost all hope, because she had been going around various voodoo doctors, find hope, find treatment, but no treatment.
That defies description, really, if I wasn't looking at pictures.
And it is wonderful to see the mum actually is quite, although we know we can help her, but actually looked quite sad. But later on, you see she would change. Now, Dr. Gary Parker and I worked together, and we got all the equipment, and look at it, it's less than 500 grams on this 6, 7-year-old jaw. And when we removed that, it's wonderful. She can actually move again. She could breathe again. And this was only a few weeks after surgery. She's still a bit swollen, but she can smile now.
Oh, but the transformation.
That was 3 months after surgery.
It's wonderful stuff, isn't it? You're looking at that, I mean, our travails and our worries, you know, when you look at Kamara and what she was dealing with, and to see that transformation.
It's humbling, and it's also a tribute to the ingenuity of humans that modern medicine can do this. Yeah. But it's humbling to hear that it's used in that way. I mean, that's all I can say. It's a fantastic, the inspiring but humbling story.
Very inspiring what you do. I mean, I almost.
May I bring this technology? You know, when did we send a human being step foot on the moon? Over 50 years ago. That technology is there.
Yeah, yeah.
And yet we still got a surgical crisis. 2/3 of a world population do not have basic surgical care. I mean, and that's really sad.
About the NHS in that story as well, you know, kind of where you can organise and a state is able to, isn't it able to relieve such suffering that would happen otherwise? Yeah. And we need to enable those states and those communities and those people to be able to organise their health systems like that, or however they want to. So everyone. But
they need development, don't they? They need to be able to develop, to industrialise, to grow. And of course, one of the challenges at the moment, I hate to politicise this, but is that there will be people saying, oh, well, you know, we don't want them to modernise and industrialise because that will increase carbon emissions. And you think, oh, for God's sake, I don't care at this point. I want those kids to live in a modern, developed society with a modern medicine. That's what I want.
That's not necessarily true. I mean, you have, many of those societies are cooking over fires, which produce carbon. If you're actually, and produce huge health effects in terms of the lungs breathing in. If you are getting people to move to solar cooking or electric cooking, you're developing, you are modernising. At the same time, you are saving the environment.
They have to create wealth, and that means...
We can do win-win, but it requires decent development, and it requires us transferring technology and fantastic skills like you to those parts of the world so they can learn quicker than we learnt.
When you, Dr. Chang, when you turn up for one of your stays with the Mercy ship, how many patients are you confronted by? And how long do you spend, and how many people are you able to help in that way?
Mercy Ship, I've been with Mercy Ship nearly for 20 years. In the first 17 years or so, it's amazing. We have 7,000 people turn up. Can you imagine 7,000 people turn up in the local hospital outpatient for assessment? Mm-hmm. And now we realise that we're actually not reaching out for those people who really need it in poorer places. So we now have sent nursing team to decentralise triage, to go and sort of really look out for those patients who really need it. So I go on the ship about 2 weeks, and I treat about 15 to 20 patients. Not a huge number, but you can imagine Gary Parker, the person that I mentioned before. He had been serving on the ship full-time and 33 years, over 33 years, without salary or pension, just on the ship, helping people. And that's why
he sounds like a saint.
He's a walking saint.
How has he been able? What's his background? How does he come to be permanently aboard this ship for decades?
Well, an American who finished his training, a basic training, and say, I really want to help the third world. And his trainer said, well, you need to go to UK because the UK's training is great, more rounded. So he ended up in North Wales for some 6 to 7 years, learning all the skills. And he could have stayed in this country, in UK, or go back to America to become a very rich surgeon. But money never comes into her head. He said, right, I now got the skills. How can I use this tool to make the world a better place? And at that time, the Mercy Ship was looking for a surgeon. So he applied, and he thought, I'll just give it a go. 33 years. After marrying another volunteers, after having 2 children, grew up on the ship, long term. And now both children are back in America. And we have got a lot of these saintly people. And that's one of the reasons when I go to the ship, I'm actually walking alongside these amazing, selfless people. Do you know, to my own spirit, to my own heart, I'm growing because I'm learning from these amazing people doing miraculous work. And I'd like to share with you this. That is Africa Mercy, 16,500 ton ship. We are launching next year another ship which is 37,000 ton ship, more than double.
More than double.
It's called Global Mercy. And on this ship, we will be doubling our capacity, will double the impact on the West African country. But on top of that, in this 12-deck, big ship, large part of it is actually designed to train local healthcare workers how to help with more people, how to train their own people so that more people can be helped. And there will be, I was told, that 2 state-of-art simulation laboratory. There are multimedia rooms and teaching rooms. And it is going to be the largest floating training platform in the world for Africa. It's amazing.
What would be the price tag? Can you even estimate, or do you know what would be the price of that 37,000 ton ship that will make such a difference? What are we talking about there?
I haven't got the figure in my head at the moment, but
it's striking me that it's probably, in the scheme of things, when we talk about the kind of, personal wealth that some people have, and the income that some of the technology companies have, I'm imagining it's a relatively manageable figure when set against those kind of figures.
I agree with you, and I also feel that putting money on building a hospital ship, it's actually quite a romantic idea, because I questioned some of the people in Mercy Ship early on to say, why don't you use that money and build a hospital on the land? And of course, in those troubled country, low-income country, if there's election, sometimes there could be fights, sometimes it could end up in civil war. So of course, it's very unstable. So actually, put money on the ship, and when the country needs it, you sell to it, and when you finish what you need to do, you sail away to another country. And I've been told that over 40% of the world's population are within 100 miles of the coast. So actually, it's a good thing to put the hospital on the ship and sail to it. And I've also heard someone who's dreaming about how many ships do we need in the world to go to help all these poor countries with port cities? Over 200. Mm-hmm. And the moment, by next year, we'll have 2 ships. This is just a start.
The way you talk, though, listening to you talk, because you're existing, if only briefly, in a world in which people are suffering so much. But on account of the contribution you're able to make, the light shines from you, how much it means to you and how much you are also getting in return. You talk about whether or not people are wealthy with the use of their skills, but the kind of riches that you are evidence of puts all of that into, it just negates all of that, and what the kind of wealth that you have and the richness that you have brought to your life and to others is beyond description.
Leo, in the world, a lot of people say, well, I want more money, I want better reputation, I want better cars and all the rest of it. I don't think that always brings happiness. And again, learning from Dr. Gary Parker and many other similar like-minded people on the ship, I then realized their life purpose is not all the things, me, money, reputation, all that. Is how can I help people that have no way of thanking me, no way of returning that back to me. And their life purpose is actually so fulfilled. And that's why I love to walk alongside them, learn from them. And may I say, that is what I'm aiming for. We are bigger than ourselves, Neil. It's not the things, not material things that we need. We can change the world by helping other people, by not asking any return. And I think, in a sense, this country is built on that principle. National Health Service. I love it to bits. Is it the most efficient system? Not at all. There's no perfect system in the world. But by Jove, we have a lot of amazing treatments and a lot of happy patients.
Inaya, how much do we need stories like this? How much better do you feel having listened to this kind of content?
I think we we absolutely do need stories like this. I think that oftentimes when we think about helping or supporting others in different countries, we think about it in a very kind of bureaucratic way, a very slow way, but actually there's something quite remarkable about individuals that are really passionate and have lots of skills coming together collaboratively and just going out and doing something on the grassroots, building the kinds of networks and connections that can make a really transformational difference and allowing it to grow from there rather than often very top-down, kind of top-heavy types of things. Actually very grassroots things can do such a big difference. I think it's really inspiring. I mean, we often live in a culture that I think rewards demonstrations of vulnerability, people giving up or people not actually being risk-taking and being spontaneous. And this just demonstrates that actually one person working with lots of different people can make a really, really huge impact. So I think it's great, really inspiring.
Let me shake your hand. That's a wonderful story, Leo. The difference that it makes, to hear, to hear.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.